What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. The stock turbo is back on, so today I'm going to get all of the vacuum lines and the stock bypass valve reconnected. Stay tuned. In my last video, I completely reconnected the stock turbo, so all of the oil lines, all of the coolant lines, all of that's connected. So I still got to do my vacuum lines. I've still got to reconnect the bypass valve on the turbo up here to the top of the car. When I put the bigger turbo on here, I originally just completely disconnected the bypass valve and then I blocked it off with a bolt and a hose clamp up here. The bigger turbo does not have a built-in bypass valve like the stock one does, so you have to relocate it. For me, I went with the CPE XL kit and the tile blow-off valve. They also make it where it comes pre-welded with a bung for an HKS blow-off valve. I think there's a few other brands that make similar kits as well. If you didn't see my last video, this is what it is. It just replaces the cold side charge pipe, and then here is the blow-off valve, and then this runs up to where the map sensor plugs in. I never did a video on this, but I ordered this XL kit specifically for the Focus ST, so I assumed that everything came perfect for the car. But I noticed at idle, the valve was always open, and it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to stay just closed at idle, and then when boost is applied through the piping, the valve closes all the way shut, and then when you let off the throttle, the vacuum source sucks the valve open, releases the pressure, and then it goes back to idle, and it's supposed to close up again. I knew that my blow-off valve had the white spring inside. I know it doesn't, well, there it is. You can kind of see white on there, but it said it on the box. To try to make a long story short, I did a bunch of research on this, and the white spring is not the correct spring for the Focus ST. There was one guy, I can't remember his name, but he was on every forum and he had tested every spring in the tile blow-off valve on the Focus ST, and it was definitely the plain spring. So that's the one I ordered. I actually replaced it, and sure enough, the valve stays just closed at idle, and then under pressure, the valve closes perfectly, and when I let off, it opens up, releases all the pressure, and then immediately closes. Here's my line for the stock bypass valve. So this end right here connects up top where I have it blocked off with the bolt, and then this end down here runs down to where the turbo is and connects into the side where the bypass valve is at. One thing before I start reconnecting the vacuum lines and the bypass valve, I'm not going to make the same mistake that I made when I put the big turbo on. I decided to put coolant in last and did not check for any leaks before I did everything else, got everything back on the car, and I ended up not tightening down the coolant feed line on the turbo, and it had a little bit of a leak. You have to put that line on first before you put the turbo on the car, because it is the only line that you cannot reach while the turbo is on the car. So literally everything had to come back off. The turbo had to come completely back off the car. All the lines had to come back off. It was a big mistake. For the Focus ST, it says you have to specifically use this Motorcraft orange. I did go ahead and get the pre-diluted version just to make it easy. But I don't know a whole lot about coolant, so I don't know why it's specific, but that's what they say to get, so that's what I got. This stuff was hard to find too. I could not find it. You can get yellow and gold all day long, but the orange, I had to go to the dealership to actually get this. I think it's good, boys. Coolant is in the car and I have no leaks. This is just from me not having very good pouring skills, but no leaks back there, so we are good to go. The coolant is between the minimum and maximum level right now. Actually, it's actually drained some in there now. So yeah, after you add it, it will look like it's full, so don't think that's where you have to stop. You have to let it kind of run through the system for a minute, pour some more in there, let that run through, and then after you start the car, let it actually run through the system and then fill it back up to where it is in between the minimum and maximum line here. No coolant leaks, we are good here, so I'm gonna go ahead and start getting all of the vacuum lines reconnected. When I took this thing off initially, I did label it all, but I know where everything goes now. So this hose over here to the side goes to the intake. This long one in the center here goes to the wastegate, and then this little short one over here goes to where the hot side charge connects. And then you have your wire harness that connects in right there. I've got all of my vacuum lines hooked up, so the wastegate and the intake are pretty easy to get to from up top, and then the hot side charge is on the back side of this right here. You can reach it from the bottom. I just couldn't show you on camera putting the hose clamp on because it's just too tight of a space to get the camera and the pliers in there. On the video that I did pull the big turbo off, I got a comment by somebody by the name of Scratchy. He was asking about the vacuum lines. I kind of just mocked it up here for you. So here is my intake. This is going into the turbo, and then here is my hot side charge pipe that would be going to my intercooler. On the big turbo for the wastegate, it's no different. Your wastegate is built in. You just connect it up right here, just like it does on the stock turbo. For the intake and the hot side charge pipe, the hot side charge pipe comes with this elbow, and then the ATP kit comes with this elbow, and then it comes with these little adapters right here. So what you have to do is just pretty much get it on the car and just kind of mock it up. And what I've figured out is pretty much anywhere on this elbow right here where it actually makes the bend, and then same here on the intake, pretty much anywhere where it makes the bend. You can just drill your hole, and then it has these little nipples they punch through, and then you have a washer, a nut, and then a little clamp right here on top of it. Your vacuum lines just connect to those, and I have never had an issue the entire time that I've had this turbo on the car. Now that all my vacuum lines are on, I'm going to get the stock bypass valve reconnected. So this is my tile blow-off valve. This is what I was using in place of the stock bypass valve because the big turbo does not come with a built-in bypass valve. So this, how it works is it's just plumbed up to where the map sensor goes in on the intake. So you pull the map sensor out, the OEM map sensor, and then this plugs in its place, and you use the stock hardware to do that. And then you have this little Allen bolt that connects the OEM map sensor, and then it just goes on top of this. The stock bypass valve runs off of a solenoid, whereas this actually runs off of the pressure in the actual intake manifold. I showed you guys earlier how I blocked off my stock bypass valve, so it's just this bolt with a hose clamp. So I'll pull the bolt out, and then I will put the stock line back in and run the hose clamp over it, and then the other end down here will go to the bypass valve on the side of the turbo. Stock bypass valve is all reconnected, and then my vacuum lines are all hooked up. So the only things that I have left to connect to the turbo are the charge pipes, the intake, and then the exhaust. I could actually start the car right now, but the intake would be sucking air in directly from the manifold, and then the exhaust would be coming straight out of the turbo because there's not even a downpipe on there right now. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna save that for my next video because I'm gonna get all the charge pipes back on. I'm gonna get the intake on, get the exhaust back on. That way it's not just a first startup, I can actually go drive this thing too. All right guys, that's where I'm gonna end this video. Like I said, I could start it up, but I don't really want to shoot exhaust straight out of the turbo in the back. So for the next video, I will get everything back on here, get this thing started up, and I'd like to take it for a drive. I haven't driven this stock turbo in over 2 years. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time.